بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وعباد الرحمن الذين يمشون على الأرض هونا
الحمد لله الذي هدى والصلاة والسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى خصوصا على سيد الرسل وخاتم الأنبياء وعلى آله وأصحابه الذين اجتبى أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله يصطفي من الملائكة رسلا ومن الناس إن الله سميع بصير يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم وإلى الله ترجع الأمور صدق الله العظيم. After having a brief introduction of Hadith in the previous sessions, it's time, inshallah, to talk about some of the muhaddithin who did work in the field of Hadith. And of course, as soon as the word muhaddithin is used, those who are familiar with this term, the first name that comes in mind is of Imam Bukhari, rahimahullah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed him with the knowledge of hadith, accepted him for the service of hadith. And when we study his life, it looks like as if he was created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only for this field. Looking at his abilities, at the service that he had offered, and the willingness to accept any type of situation that he has to face to learn the hadith, the zeal to learn and memorize the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and then preserving the hadith in such a way that he would not change a single word, he will not give up anything for any of the situations, for any offers that he was offered in his life. He devoted his life, sacrificed his life for learning and memorizing and protecting the ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Imam Bukhari rahimahullah lived at the beginning of the 3rd century. And that was the time when most of the work of hadith was done by Tabieen, the students of Tabieen, radwanullahi alayhim ajma'in. As we talked about it in the previous sessions, hadiths were documented during the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. We talked about some of those books. And then it was written during the time of Tabieen, radwanullahi alayhim ajma'in. We talked about some of those books. And then during the time of Tabi'een, including this time of Imam Bukhari rahimahullah, which we can say is the ending of the 2nd century and the beginning of the 3rd century, that was the time when the greatest work of hadith was done by muhaddithin. And these muhaddithin who did the work in this 3rd century, they came up with totally new method of documenting the hadith. And that was when these muhaddithin started working on hadith, they started separating the hadith according to the subjects, they started separating the hadith according to the authenticity of the hadith, according to the narrators of the hadith. They started documenting the life histories and biographies of each and every narrator of the hadith. So during that time, in the 3rd century, each person that will be muhaddis, he had to know details about each and every person that is used in this chain of narrators. So if a person narrates a hadith, he says, I heard this hadith from Muhammad bin Ismail. Muhammad bin Ismail heard this hadith from Humaydi. So I have to tell you who was Muhammad bin Ismail. Where was he born? Where did he live? Where did he die? And who are his teachers? Who are his students? Then he heard this hadith from Humaydi. In this hadith, his teacher is Humaydi. So who was Humaydi? And where was Humaydi? Where was he born? At what time during what time he lived? In what areas? So that we know if Muhammad Ismail ever met Humaydi or not. And if they met, then at what time did he hear the hadith from him? Did he hear the hadith at the young age, or when he was old enough to memorize the hadith? Did he hear the hadith when Humaydi, his teacher, was with his good memory, or he heard it when he was in his 90s? All of these details were documented during the end of the 2nd and the beginning of the 3rd century. A type of work that is totally unique, and only Islamic library will have that information regarding the history, regarding deen. Even if you take it from the historical point of view, leave the other side of the deen. From the historical point of view, it's such a history that reveals the biography and details about each and every person that was involved in the science of hadith. A person who just narrates hadith, he told someone, I heard this hadith, they will go and they will document all of his life history. A unique work that was done. And not only this, they would not just write that, they would even go to the detail to tell us if he was trustworthy or not. Was he ever seen lying in his life? Did anyone found him lying? And if he did, then what will be the level of the hadith that he narrates? All of these details are something that we don't find it in any book of the history other than this field of hadith, and it is given a special name in the field of hadith, which is known as Asma'ul Rijal. Without going into now these details of Asma'ul Rijal and how it was documented, and at this time, today, what type of material we have available in the field of Asma'ul Rijal, how to benefit from it, what is the use of that field today? There is a lot of it. There is a lot of use, and we always need it. But of course, it's a specialty, and if we go into the details of it, it will take up all of the time, and it will just take us away from this topic of the life of Imam Bukhari rahimahullah. But now we can understand that Imam Bukhari rahimahullah, he lived at a time when the science of hadith was taking a new step, and it was coming into the new field, and that was, you don't just memorize the hadith, you memorize the hadith, and then you memorize the biographies of all the narrators of the hadith. Imam Bukhari rahimahullah, as we see that he was born at the end of the 2nd century, beginning of the 3rd century, 194. His birth, 13th of Shawwal, after Salatul Jum'ah, in the year 194, and he was born in Bukhara. His father's name was Ismail. Ismail's father was Ibrahim, and his father was Mughira. So Imam Bukhari's full name will be Muhammad. His name, Imam Bukhari, he's known as Bukhari, Imam Bukhari. But his real name is not Imam Bukhari, of course, because he was from Bukhara. People know him as Imam Bukhari. But his name was Muhammad. That's all. This is his name, Muhammad ibn Ismail, the son of Ismail, ibn Ibrahim, ibn al-Mughira. And then Mughira was the son of a person from Persia, whose name was Bardazbah. This Bardazbah is a Persian name, But this was not a Muslim. His son Al-Mughira, he looked into Islam and finally he became Muslim, and after becoming Muslim he immigrated from Persia to Bukhara. And then finally this family started getting more and more into deen and very devoted to the deen. SubhanAllah, we can see that how people who came into Islam, they were not there from the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But when they came, they wanted to make up for their past. And therefore they worked harder than those who were born in it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses people not according to their backgrounds, according to the zeal and their sincerity and their effort for the deen of Allah. The doors are not closed for any person. Imam Bukhari's father, Ismail, was a businessman, but at the same time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed him with a quality. The quality was of loving the ulama. He used to keep a very close connection with the scholars. And we can see, as we will study the life of Imam Bukhari, we'll see that this was something that brought that major change into this family. As he loved the ulama, so of course in those days, everyone who is connected to that field, to the ulama, to the scholars of Islam, he learns the hadith, he memorizes the hadith. So therefore, his father Ismail, he learned some hadith from Imam Malik rahmatullahi alayh, and another great scholar whose name was Hammad ibn Zayd. In those days it was known that there are 4 great muhaddiseen in the world, in the whole Islamic world, and one of them was Hammad bin Zayd. So Imam Bukhari's father studied hadith from Hammad ibn Zayd and from Imam Malik rahmatullahi alayh. But not to become a scholar, just a businessman who's interested in knowing the deen, and he loves deen, so he would like to study. So he went to these scholars and he learned. Then he kept a very close connection with another scholar that was in Bukhara, in his own hometown. His name was Abu Hafs al-Kabir. Abu Hafs al-Kabir was the student of Imam Abu Yusuf and Imam Muhammad rahimahumullah, who both of them were the students of Imam Abu Hanifa rahimahullah. So Ibrahim was very, Ismail, the father of Imam Bukhari, was very closely connected to Abu Hafs al-Kabir. Subhanallah, it so happened that this great man, Ismail, when he had his second son, who he named him Muhammad, that was Imam Bukhari, he passed away right after the birth of his second son, Muhammad. Before he passed away, he made a will to his close friend, now, that person, the great scholar of Bukhara, Abu Hafs al-Kabir. He made a will to him that I would like my son to follow your steps. So please, it looks like these are the last days of my life. If I die, make sure that you get my son to learn the way that you would love it for your own people. Take care of my son and his education. And then he told him one more thing that indicates how great of a man he was. He says, every penny that I'm leaving for my son and for my family, there isn't a single penny of haram in it. And not just of haram, there isn't a single penny that is doubtful in my wealth. I never fed my family, my children, anything of haram or anything that was doubtful. Subhanallah. Look how people were raising their children and their families. And the reason he's mentioning this, that in future I would like this to continue in my family. Nothing of haram or nothing doubtful should get into this house. And he passed away. Abu Hafs al-Kabir, of course, according to the will of his friend, he started taking care of this young boy Muhammad so that he will learn and memorize Qur'an. That was the first step they used to get into. Once the child is able to learn, the first thing they used to do is make the child memorize the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imam Bukhari rahimahullah, as he started memorizing Qur'an, within that time he became blind. He lost his eyesight. Now everyone lost hope that this boy, who we hope that we will make him be something so that we will remember his father and we fulfill the will of his father, now he's blind, so we can do nothing about him. Yes, memorization of Qur'an can continue because he can just listen and memorize the Qur'an. And there are people who can just keep on reading to him, so he can just listen to that and memorize it. But after that, there is nothing we can do for him. Subhanallah, his mother. And we have seen the situation of a father with his taqwa, with his zuhd, not bringing anything doubtful, any haram into that house. How he's raising the family. And of course, this doesn't happen if the other half of the family is not accepting these things. When we talk that the man was living that type of life, is not only that half, is the other part of it also. If the other half of the family is not willing to accept this, if the wife is not willing to go with that type of lifestyle, it's impossible to run that house in that manner. So of course, we see the other side also. There is zuhd, there is taqwa, there is iman. She kept on making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every night she is up to make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And she continued making dua for almost 6 years. Almost 6 years. This single mother, she gets up and she makes dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. She never gave up. She never lost hope. She continued making dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One day she sees a dream. In her dream she saw Sayyidina Ibrahim alayhi salatu wassalam telling her that, look, I'm wiping my hand over the face of your son, and now just get up because he's getting his eyesight back as I'm going to wipe my hand over his face. As she saw the dream, she woke up. She went and woke her son up to see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has returned his eyesight back to him. Right away she says to her son, son, I begged Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all of these years to give you the eyesight back, not for you to earn and bring me any food. I'll take care of that part. I'll keep on working and do whatever I can to take care of your needs. Now what I like you to do is go and start memorizing the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And Imam Bukhari rahimahullah started memorizing the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Initially he's learning the basic things about the Sharia, the basic rulings of Sharia, as it is the normal steps in learning the hadith. But as he was memorizing the Qur'an and then in the process of learning the basics of hadith and basics of fiqh and other rulings of the Sharia, he used to just go and sit in his free times, sit in the gatherings of the muhaddiseen. As they would narrate the hadith, he would just sit over there and listen to the hadith. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed him with a memory that just by listening to these muhaddiseen, he started memorizing the hadith. He himself narrates that I was only 11 years old. There was a great muhaddis in Bukhara whose name was Muhaddis al-Dakhili. One day he's sitting in the gathering of Muhaddis Dakhili. This 11-year-old boy is sitting in that gathering, and Muhaddis Dakhili narrates a hadith. حدثنا سفيان عن أبي الزبير عن إبراهيم. Sufyan has narrated this hadith to me, and he heard it from Abu Zubayr, and Abu Zubayr heard it from Ibrahim. This young Muhammad gets up to tell his teacher, to tell that muhaddis, excuse me, the chain that you're narrating, there is a mistake in it. Abu Zubayr never heard any hadith from Ibrahim. That muhaddis looks at him. This young boy, what does he know about chain of narrators? So he ignores him and continues narrating the hadith. The boy is firm in his opinion and very brave. He repeats the same question again. That excuse me, Abu Zubayr never heard any hadith from Ibrahim because he never met him. Hadith. Now gets a little upset and says to him, son, sit down. You don't know these things yet. He said, that might be true, but I know this much, that Abu Zubayr never heard anything from Ibrahim. Please refer to your books or ask the other scholars. He stops the hadith. He goes back to refer to his books. He comes back. He says, son, then what is the right narration? What is the correct chain of narrators of this hadith? He says, Sufyan and his Zubayr is not Abu Zubayr. This is Zubayr, another person. He heard the hadith from Ibrahim. This is how much he knew about chain of narrators at the age of 11. That he can distinguish between Abu Zubayr, and he knows that Abu Zubayr never heard a hadith from Ibrahim. It was Zubayr who heard a hadith from Ibrahim. It may be difficult to find a muhaddis nowadays who would be able to catch these type of small mistakes in the chains of narrators. But this was the field of hadith that he worked in. Imam Bukhari rahimahullah says, by the age of 16, I had memorized the books of Abdullah ibn Mubarak. I memorized the Mu'atta of Imam Malik rahmatullahi alayh, and some other books of hadith. And he got the hadith from all the teachers of Bukhara. Then he went with his mother and his brother to Hajj. He's 16 years old. Over there, he stays back to learn the hadith from the scholars of Mecca and Medina. And then, whenever he will get the chance, he will go back home to Bukhara. So his mother and his brother go back to Bukhara. Imam Bukhari rahimahullah started memorizing the hadith and learning the hadith from all the scholars around there. And during that time, then he started traveling all around the Islamic world. And he learned hadith from more than 1,000 muhaddiseen at that time. During this time, Imam Bukhari rahimahullah saw a dream. In his dream, he saw Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam laying down, and there were some flies that were trying to sit on him, and he's keeping them away from sitting on Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam with a hand fan that he had in his hand. So he's keeping the flies away from sitting on Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He asked some of the scholars, what did that mean? And they informed him that inshallah Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take some great work of hadith from you, and you will keep all the weak narrations away from the authentic narrations. And as we see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really accepted him for that work. And with this, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed him with a memory that muhaddiseen have narrated. He used to memorize hadith just by hearing it once or by seeing it once written somewhere. If he would read it once, he has it in his memory. He would never forget that hadith again. Sulaiman ibn Mujahid, who was a great scholar of that time, muhaddis, He says, I was sitting in the gathering of another muhaddis. They were friends. His name was Muhammad ibn Salam. Muhammad ibn Salam said to me, had you come to me few minutes earlier, I would have shown you a boy, a teenager, who knows 70,000 ahadith by memory. He knows 70,000 ahadith by heart. I said, I have to see him. Even if he left, I'm going to look for him. And he goes out to look for him. And he finds Imam Bukhari rahimahullah. He asked him, are you the person that is known about that you know more than 70,000 hadiths by heart? He said, not only 70,000, I know more than that. And then he says to him, not only that I know these hadiths, I know the hadiths, and I know about each and every Sahabi and Tabi'i that is in the chain of narrators. Where he was born, where did he live? I can tell you the whole biography of that person from his birth to death. This is when he's a teenager. Still, he's not in his 20s yet. Imam Bukhari rahimahullah says about himself, he says, once when I was studying the hadith, still he's not a muhaddis yet, he's studying the hadith, I went to Balkh. The people of Balkh, as they asked me about many different hadiths, finally a question came to me, that can you narrate to us one hadith from each of your teachers? Imam Bukhari rahimahullah says, in that one gathering, I narrated to them 1,000 different hadiths that I have heard from 1,000 different teachers. He's narrating 1,000 hadiths that he had heard from 1,000 different teachers. No repetition in the hadith, and he doesn't narrate the same hadith that he heard, two hadiths that he heard from the same teacher. Each hadith that he heard from a different teacher. And it's all from his memory. Once muhaddiseen are sitting, and of course this is their field, they discuss these things about hadith, about the narrators of the hadith. So they were discussing the students of Sayyidina Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu anhu. That who were the students of Anas bin Malik? Who are the people who heard any hadith from Anas bin Malik radiyallahu anhu? Imam Bukhari rahimahullah, in the same gathering, just right there without referring to notes or anything, he narrates 300 names of the students of Sayyidina Anas ibn Malik radiyallahu anhu. When he went to his, as he's traveling, and he went to Baghdad, one of his colleagues, whose name was Hashid, says that one day we saw that this young man came to our class, a newcomer, he came and he joined us. He doesn't write anything, he just sits over there, he listens to the teacher, we all are taking notes, we are writing the hadith, he doesn't write anything and he goes back. Next day he comes, he doesn't write. Third day we thought, he must be just a guest who would just like to sit and get the benefit of the company of the muhaddiseen, sitting in the gathering of the hadith. He doesn't really want to learn hadith. But we saw him continuing sitting over there for a couple of weeks. So we went to him. A couple of friends, we got together, we said, let's talk to this young man. He just sits here and he's wasting his time. If he's doing that, he might as well just take notes and write them down, so he can memorize them later on. So he says that we all went to Imam Bukhari rahmatullahi alayhi. And we sat with him trying to explain to him. He said, I know what I'm doing, just leave me alone. And we kept on insisting on him. No, you must take advantage of this life, this is very important. So he said to me, okay, you people bring your notes. How many hadiths did you write in these last 2 weeks since I came? So looking at the notes, they told Imam Bukhari that they had written about 15,000 ahadiths. Now he says, okay, start looking in your notes, and he narrates 15,000 ahadith from his memory in the exact same order as he heard it from his teacher. Hashid bin Ismail says, at that time we realized that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had blessed him with this memory, and this man is just here, Allah just created him for the service of the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Imam Bukhari rahimahullah, as it was known about him, his memory, and he's a great muhaddis. At another occasion when he went to Baghdad, after traveling different parts of the world and memorizing the hadith, now wherever he goes, before he arrives there is a lot of talk about him, that there is a person, his name is Muhammad Ismail, he's from Bukhara, extremely sharp memory, and he just memorizes all the hadiths. He can tell you all the details about all the narrators of the hadith. So the people of Bukhara decided we should try his memory. Let's see if he really is what we have heard about him, or he's just trying to make up something. So 10 people got together. Each of them got 10 ahadiths, and they mixed up the chain of narrators of these ahadiths. So each person is coming with 10 ahadiths where he has mixed up the chain of narrators. In some of them they change the order of the narrators. In some of them they take the chain of narrators of one hadith and apply it on the other hadith. Switch the chain of narrators of the hadith. So in this way they prepared 100 ahadiths. General public doesn't know about it. They prepared 100 ahadiths. These are 10 people who came up with this plan. Imam Bukhari rahimahullah, as he came to the masjid, people know him as a great muhaddis now. He sits on the minbar, he starts narrating the hadith. One of them gets up and he says, I have a question. Okay, what's your question? And he narrates that hadith that he have changed it. And asked him, have you heard about it? He says, no, I never heard about this one. Of course, the hadith has changed. He never heard about it. He narrates the second hadith to him. Have you heard about this one? No. And that person narrated all 10 hadiths, asking Imam Bukhari, have you heard about this? And he says no about each and every of those hadiths. General public are thinking, this person doesn't know anything. We heard that he was a muhaddis. Here, 10 hadiths, he doesn't know none of them. But the muhaddiseen that were sitting there, they were, as Imam Qastalani rahimahullah has narrated, they are sitting and they are whispering to each other that he knows what's happening with him. He knows what they're doing. Next person gets up. I have a question too. And he narrates his 10 hadiths. Have you heard about it? No. Third person, have you heard about this? No. 30 hadiths asked in a row, and he doesn't know about any of them. The general public are thinking, what is this? We have never seen a muhaddis that famous of muhaddis. General muhaddiseen, normal muhaddiseen, they know at least some of these hadiths. You know, if you ask them 30 hadiths, they would know some of them. And finally, when they finished, they had asked him all 100 hadiths, and he says about each and every hadith, I don't know it. Now there is a lot of whispering going on there. And Imam Bukhari rahimahullah is sitting there patiently, and he asked anyone else has any question, and people said no, no questions. Now he says to the first person, let me talk to you about your questions. The hadith that you narrated to me in this manner, but the correct hadith is in this manner. And he narrates to him all 10 hadiths the way he narrated it. And then he gives him the correct narration of it. Second person, you narrated the hadith, you switch the chain from there to this one, and you put this chain to that one. This is how you switch the order of the narrators. This is what you narrated, and this is the correct narration of it. And he narrates all 100 hadiths the way it was narrated to him from those people, and then the correct form of that hadith. Of course, narrating the ones that he already knew was easy, but memorizing those with all the mistakes and the changes that these people have made just by hearing it once, and then knowing which 10 were narrated by which person, subhanallah, this is all you can say is a miracle of this deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed those people with these type of memories and with abilities, as we call it, the word barakah. We use it a lot. We may understand it now when it comes to affiliation with the memory, barakah in these people's memory, that they are memorizing their hadith and they have devoted their lives for the hadith. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put all of that barakah in their memories, and they are just memorizing things by hearing it once, and they're using these memories and their abilities for the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If not memory, we have many other abilities that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have blessed us with. We can use our abilities for the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then we'll see how Allah puts barakah in these abilities and how they will be used for the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of us. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. Subhanahu wa ta'ala put all of that barakah in their memories, and they are just memorizing things by hearing it once, and they're using these memories and their abilities for the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If not memory, we have many other abilities that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have blessed us with. We can use our abilities for the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then we'll see how Allah puts barakah in these abilities and how they will be used for the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept all of us. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين.
مولاي صل وسلم